Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Concerned Citizens Media. Uh, I have some news to share with you. I'm gonna read the news, then I have some videos at the end of the reading materials, so check it out. So welcome back again. Thank you, and let's start. Here are the news and the Concerned Citizens Media comments for February 24, 2021. Oromo political prisoners hunger strikes continue for the 26 days. Surprisingly, a grand rally is scheduled for February 25, 2021 in Washington, D.C. by Oromo Americans and their supporters living across the United States. This grand rally is intended to raise awareness about all Oromo political prisoners' hunger strikes and to demand for their immediate release from Ethiopia's prisons. This rally also will call for the end of all human rights violations on Oromos on their own land by Abiy Ahmed's administration. Please attend and be the voice for the voiceless. Please attend this grand rally scheduled on 25th of February in Washington, D.C. So the organizers are calling on us living across the 50 states to come over there in D.C. and be the voice for the voiceless. Stand with these Oromo political prisoners who are suffering on behalf of Oromos. So be there if you can. In the meantime, the Ethiopian Federal Court ordered Juhar Muhammad, Mekele Garba, Hamza Borana, and other Oromo political prisoners get their medical treatment by their own doctors at the prisons. But their lawyer rejected this order and demanded these political prisoners get the urgently needed medical attention at their doctors' medical centers instead of prison cells. So no final decision on this lawyer's demand or appeal. So the court order to get their treatment at the prison cells, but the lawyers say no, they must get that the medical attention needed at their doctors' medical centers. So this issue is keep coming back and going forward, and people are suffering between. So immediate attention should be given. They should be allowed to see their doctors. In that way, life can be saved. They have to stop playing politics with the lives of these people. They have no criminal background, as we all know. They are all political prisoners and politically motivated arrests made by Abiy Ahmed. We all know that. So I have to get medical attention immediately, urgently, really. This is very serious, and anything happen to them, Abiy will be responsible. Abiy and his supporters will be responsible for their life. They got to know that. Okay. Ethiopia's defense team in United Arab Emirates. The team of Ethiopia's defense force, led by Chief of Staff Brigadier General Branu Jula, made an unannounced visit to United Arab Emirates. The team met with United Arab Emirates Deputy Army Chief Prince Sheikh Mohammed bin Said and presented a message sent from Abiy Ahmed. The detail of this letter is not public to the media. It's not public to the media. There is a speculation that this letter might contain Abiy Ahmed's appreciation for the United Arab Emirates support in the Tigray region's war and an additional solicitation for more support from United Arab Emirates for Abiy Ahmed and for his Prosperity Party's survival in the future. So the message is sent to United Arab Emirates administration from Abiy Ahmed, and it's not clear what this message is, but the speculation is to thank United Arab Emirates for their drone support in the Tigray and looking for more or additional support needed for Abiy Ahmed's survival and for his Prosperity Party survival in the future. That's the speculation. The United Nations chief Antonio Guterres made phone calls with Sudan and Ethiopia's leaders. According to the United Nations media briefings, the United Nations General Secretary Antonio Guterres talked to Sudan's Foreign Minister Abdullah Hamdok and Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia, and stressed about the importance of settling their border disputes through diplomacy instead of military confrontation. The United Nations is in favor of this approach for the dangerous escalation along the border and ready to offer any assistance these two nations might need from the United Nations office. The United Nations chief also expressed his serious concerns about ongoing humanitarian crisis and human rights violations in the Tigray region. Aid delivery to the region must be expanded to reach all that needs. So that's the United Nations concern about the Tigray region and the border conflict between Sudan and Ethiopia. United States marks heartbreaking milestone with 500,000 plus COVID-19 deaths. Even though the death toll from this virus surpasses 500,000 on Monday, overall daily cases and deaths are dropping. The 500,000 plus Americans who have died from coronavirus exceeds the death toll from World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War combined. So it passed all this, the number of Americans died in these three wars. COVID-19 is surpassed. It's a very, very serious. President Joe Biden said during his emotional speech at the White House on Monday, "I ask all Americans to remember those who lost and those they left behind." President Biden also asked all Americans to act, to remain vigilant, to keep social distance, to mask up, and to get vaccinated. The president also ordered all the flags on federal properties and the military installation to be lowered to half staff until Friday evening. Credit CNN. So it's a different tone, different kind of leadership in the White House, thanks to the American people. So that can make big difference, the way they talk, the way they address the COVID-19 and other serious challenges. So we got the Biden House, and he is dealing with it with all scientific advice he's getting from medical doctors and others. So we are in a different situation now. He is not playing with COVID-19 like former President Donald Trump. He is not advising you to inject some kind of chemicals as a cure for this disease. He's not playing around. He's advising Americans to use common sense, to use masks, to use hand sanitizers, social distancing, avoid unnecessary gathering. So we got very good tone coming out from the White House, and it will be helpful to deal with this very, very serious virus. The United States Supreme Court allows release of former President Donald Trump's tax return to New York prosecutor. This is a big deal. The Supreme Court cleared the way for a New York prosecutor to obtain former President Donald Trump tax returns. This ruling will end Trump's fierce fighting to shield his financial dealings from viewing by attorneys by claiming immunities and IRS auditing excuses. Now the grand juries in New York will have an opportunity to evaluate and investigate Trump's organization business transactions and possible payments made to his personal attorney Michael Cohen, Stormy Daniel, and other ladies that claim having extramarital affairs with the former President Donald Trump. Unfortunately, at this time, the general public is restricted from seeing his tax return due to the grand jury secrecy rule. That is CNN, credit for CNN. So, the grand jury in New York, they can see how he was dealing in a Trump organization, how he was paying all these, Stormy Daniel and other ladies claiming for, sexual affairs, and any transaction is open for these people. But the general public, maybe in the future, right now, due to this grand jury secrecy rule, is not allowed for public viewing. Anyway, it's a victory for American peoples. We will have a chance in the future to see how he was doing business, and so he cannot hide it anymore. Thanks to the Supreme Court, he cannot hide it. Nobody is above the law. He did ignored when he was running for the president not to show, claiming he was under IRS audit, and he defied all the rules, but now they got it. So they will have deep knowledge of what is inside that tax return, thanks to the country's rules. This country is very, very, very law-abiding country. A huge victory for Uber drivers in the United Kingdom. The London Supreme Court ruled that Uber drivers are workers, not self-employed. This is a big deal here too, but we didn't reach that level. So it's good for UK Uber drivers. It's a victory. Uber drivers must be treated as workers rather than self-employed, the UK Supreme Court ruled. This decision could mean thousands of Uber drivers are entitled to minimum wage and holiday pay or sick pay, whatever it is. So they will have a chance to get all this payment. The ruling could leave the ride-hauling up facing a hefty compensation bill and have a wider consequences for the gig economy. Other countries might also see the UK's ruling as the precedent to examine their own Uber cases and make decisions. Uber and Lyft companies used a petition and public votes in the states of California to defeat states similar legal ruling against them. So in the United States there are several attempts against Uber and Lyft, but Uber and Lyft are fighting it very hardly. So far they are successful to keep drivers as self-employed instead of workers. And in California they put it in the constitution by, not constitution, I mean in a vote. First they collected enough petition to put it in a vote, and the majority proposition 22, I think, they voted to pass. Then in that way they are successful to leave Uber drivers as self-employed for now in California and in many other states. But the lawsuit and the fight, I think, is going to continue. And even the UK it took, I think it's more than 5 years. More than 5 years. Finally they got it. The Supreme Court sided with the drivers. It is a good news for them, to be fair with the drivers. That's the reading part. Thank you for listening. Let's go and share some videos. Okay, just give me a few minutes. It's coming up. The video is coming up. Here we go. The first one is Burma protesters still continue. Then it's going to continue with others.
From the air, Myanmar's southern city of Darway appears completely jammed. Thousands of protesters blocking streets in the city centre. They marched despite a warning from the military that lives will be lost if the protests continue. The thinly veiled threat came in a statement read out on state TV on Sunday night. It blamed the weekend's violence on emotional teenagers. But on the ground, there's no mistaking the demonstrators' message. They won't accept the military coup. And calls for the release of the country's democratic leader Aung San Suu Kyi, who's been held by the military.
Got to bring our people like this in Ethiopia.
Across the country, tensions remain high.
We were holding a sit-in protest and the police cracked down on us using force. There were many and they arrest many protesters.
A general strike is being widely observed, shutting banks and businesses and bringing transport systems to a halt. And despite the short-term impact, many feel that's the most effective way to make the military back down.
Today is a day for countrywide protest. We do not want to stay under the control of a military dictatorship. So we came here to join the protest regardless of the salaries we make. Nothing will happen if my salary is cut, but if we stay under the control of a military dictatorship, we will become their slaves.
Even in the capital, Naypyidaw, a city whose wide boulevards were designed for the military to maintain control, civil servants took to the streets. But the protesters have no illusions about the dangers they face. This candlelit vigil, held to commemorate those who've already died in the protests. With the military and protesters both standing their ground, real concern, there's more violence to come. Tony Cheng, Al Jazeera.
Finish your mid-fade without pausing. Try YouTube Premium on us. In style, uninterrupted.
Good day, and welcome to another edition of Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. So we are getting reports out of the South Sudan, specifically the capital of Juba, where apparently an Ethiopian peacekeeping unit was being forced to return to Ethiopia. And apparently Tigray elements within the said peacekeeping force of the Ethiopian contingent got into a altercation with other elements of the Ethiopian Defense Forces. It would appear that possibly the Tigray element of the Ethiopian unit did not want to return to Addis Ababa, possibly out of fear of persecution. And initially, there was thought to be an actual gun battle occurring between Ethiopian troops, Ethiopian peacekeeping troops, inside of Juba, South Sudan. As a matter of fact, the South Sudanese Defense Forces, security forces, had to be dispatched to the airport to try and break up the ongoing fighting between Ethiopian forces.
Viewers, a video is being shared by Tigray supporters as an evidence that Samre town has come under the control of Tigray Defense Forces. Before showing you this video, viewers, have a look at this map. In the map you can see Samre, which is situated to the west of Mekele city. Distance between Mekele and Samre is around 60 kilometers, viewers. And capturing of Samre could be first step towards taking control of Mekele. Viewers, in a previous video I informed you about some ENDF soldiers taken prisoner by TDF fighters and a TDF-backed militia. The video was geolocated afterwards, and according to the geolocation of the video, The video was recorded in Samre town. So fighting was definitely going on in and near Samre. In two previous videos I informed you about that. The video which I'm going to show you now is about February 18 celebrations. According to Tigray supporters, on February 18, Tigray activists celebrated February 18, and some celebrations were held in Samre. In the video, TDF soldiers can be seen. People can be seen chanting slogans in the video viewers. Some Tigray flags can also be seen in the video viewers. According to Tigray supporters, the video was recorded on February 18, just 4 days ago in Samre viewers. Viewers, if this news is confirmed, it could be a huge blow to Ethiopian National Defense Forces, because Samre is in southern Tigray viewers, and Samre would be the first southern Tigray town captured by TDF if the news is confirmed viewers. Watch the video of February 18 celebrations, which according to Tigray supporters occurred in Samre on February 18, just a few days ago. Thanks for watching.
So this is a big deal. Tigray ተመልሰዋል. The fighters are back to control Samre. That's a big deal. For they are welcoming the soldiers. Welcome to Samre. So that is a huge blow against Abiy Ahmed and his military claims that they control every corner of the Tigray.
Let me stress and focus about Ethiopia. The Finnish minister Havisto went to the region as my representative, representing the High Representative, went to the region on my behalf and debriefed us today about his mission. Almost 4 months into the conflict, 80% of the Tigray population of 6 million people remain unreachable.
80%.
It's a completely blackout. Today, 4 months after the start of the war, because we can call it a war, 80% of the people are still unreachable. And there are areas where fighting is still ongoing, and there is not humanitarian access. So, on behalf of the Council, I want to do this oral conclusion of our discussion today that urgent need remains to full and immediate humanitarian access to Tigray, the need to investigate allegations of severe human rights violations, of ethnic violence and discrimination, and ask for respect of international humanitarian law. The service of the External Action Service will produce a project of conclusions will be approved by written procedure. But I think I am representing the debate today in the Council if I insist on that. The fight has to stop. Full humanitarian access has to be provided. Investigation about the allegations of human rights violations, end of ethnic violence and discrimination, and respect of international humanitarian law.
Okay.
All right, good afternoon. Apologies for the late start. After we're done
So this
here,
is the
you
last
have Brendan,
video
then at
for
1
today,
p.m. we'll be
and
setting for a briefing by
it's a long video, but
Jean-Pierre
I'll
Lacroix, the
just
Undersecretary
let
General
it
for
run
Peace
for like
Operations. He'll be here in
10
the room
minutes, then I will
to
stop
brief
it.
you on peacekeeping operations in Mali, the Central African Republic, as well as other issues related to peacekeeping. As you will have seen, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, a WFP delegation was attacked and 3 people died. The victims have been identified as the Italian ambassador to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, an Italian embassy official, as well as a WFP driver, national staff member. I do expect a formal statement shortly, but I can tell you we, of course, all send our deepest condolences to our colleagues at the Italian diplomatic service, as well as to the World Food Program and the families of all those who died. Speaking in a video message at the opening of the 46th session of the Human Rights Council, the Secretary General said the pandemic has deepened pre-existing divides, vulnerabilities, and inequalities. The failure to ensure equity in vaccination efforts, he added, is the latest moral outrage. Vaccine equity affirms human rights. Vaccine nationalism denies it. Turning to the issue of racism, Mr. Guterres called for global coordinated action to defeat the grave and growing dangers of resurgent neo-Nazis, white supremacy, as well as racially and ethnically motivated terrorism. He also called for a special focus on safeguarding the rights of minority communities, and we continue to push for policies that fully respect human rights, religious and cultural and unique human identity, he added. Ending on a positive note, the Secretary General said the pandemic recovery gives us an opportunity to generate momentum for transformation. Now is the time to recover better, guided by human rights and human dignity for all, he concluded. This morning, he also spoke by pre-recorded video message to the opening of the UN Environment Assembly. He said governments and people need to understand in their very DNA that all environmental, social, and economic challenges are interlinked and they must be tackled together. The Secretary General stressed that we have no choice but to transform how our economies and societies value nature, and we must put the health of the planet at the center of our plans and policies. Mr. Guterres also told participants at the Assembly that the UN is doing everything it can to support all UN meetings that are occurring virtually this year, including the Biodiversity Summit scheduled for Kunming, China, and the COP26 Glasgow in Great Britain, to ensure that all countries can participate in negotiations. We all know that words are not enough. Commitments must be underpinned by clear and credible plans. And you'll recall on Friday afternoon, he also spoke at the with the U.S. Special Envoy for Climate, John Kerry, at the UNA-USA's Global Engagement Summit, and he welcomed the U.S.'s re-entry into the Paris Climate Agreement. And tomorrow, the Secretary General will address a special session of the Security Council on the issue of climate. We will get you those remarks as soon as we can later today. For your review, on Myanmar, in his remarks to the Human Rights Council, Mr. Guterres said you can see in the country the undermining of democracy, the use of brutal force, arbitrary arrest, repression in all its manifestations. It's all coming together with a perfect storm of upheaval, he said. He called on the Myanmar military to stop the repression immediately, as well as to release prisoners, end the violence, respect human rights, and the will of the people that were recently expressed in an election. The Secretary General stressed that coups have no place in our modern world. And in a tweet over the weekend, he called the use of lethal force, intimidation, and harassment against all peaceful demonstrators unacceptable. The UN country team also expressed its profound concern over the events on Saturday in Mandalay, in which 2 people were reportedly killed and dozens wounded when security forces used lethal force against demonstrators. The team said the use of excessive force against demonstrators must stop, and that the fundamental rights for peaceful assembly must be respected, along with other human rights such as freedom of speech. For its part, UNICEF said one of the 2 people reportedly killed in Mandalay was a child. UNICEF spoke out against the use of force against demonstrators and called on security forces to prioritize the protection and safety of children and young people. And lastly, but not least, the Secretary General's Special Envoy, Christine Schreiner-Bergner, also expressed her solidarity with the people of Myanmar. She stressed that the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government, with the will of the people of Myanmar having been expressed by the elections in November, and she continues her contacts with various parties. And turning to Yemen, the Special Envoy Martin Griffiths is in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia today, where he's expected to meet the next few days with Yemeni and Saudi officials and diplomats. This visit is part of his efforts to achieve a nationwide ceasefire, alleviate the suffering of Yemeni people, and resume the political process. Meanwhile, the 5th meeting of the Supervisory Committee on the implementation of the prisoner and detainee exchange agreement between the parties in Yemen concluded yesterday. During the talks, the parties discussed strategies and possibilities to fulfill their commitments under the Stockholm Agreement. Although the parties did not agree to releases during this round of talks, they are committed to keep discussions and the parameters of future expanded release operation. Martin Griffiths said he was disappointed and urged the parties to continue their discussions and consultations. And today, the Emergency Relief Coordinator, Mark Lowcock, made a virtual visit to Yemen. He spoke by video conference by phone to families in many different parts of the country, from Sana'a to Marib. Mr. Lowcock also met COVID-19 first responders and discussed the economic crisis with the governor of the Central Bank of Aden. This, of course, is in the run-up to March 1st, when the UN will convene a virtual high-level pledging event for the humanitarian crisis in Yemen, which will be co-hosted by the governments of Sweden and Switzerland. The event will mobilize resources to address the devastating needs of millions of people across the country for humanitarian assistance. As you know, the humanitarian assistance in Yemen, the humanitarian crisis in Yemen remains the worst in the world. More than 20 million people require some form of humanitarian protection or assistance, including 12.1 million who are in acute need, and that's according to a humanitarian overview. Turning to Ethiopia, the UN Emergency Relief Coordinator, Mark Lowcock, took a virtual visit to Mekele on Friday, and that's the capital of Tigray. The goal of the visit was to assess the impact of the conflict on the humanitarian situation in Tigray by hearing the personal experiences and observations of aid workers on the ground. Despite some improvements in the humanitarian response, ongoing insecurity, bureaucratic obstacles, and the presence of armed groups are seriously hampering the delivery of assistance in rural areas. As a result, the humanitarian response continues to be drastically inadequate compared to the magnitude of the needs across the region. We and our partners continue to engage at the highest levels with the government of Ethiopia to negotiate access, and we renew the call for full access to aid organizations working in Tigray to scale up the response while ensuring that the assistance is principled and based on needs. In addition to access challenges, we need urgent funding in areas such as health, water, sanitation, protection, and we call on the international community to step forward and provide the necessary funding. I do have that statement now that I had mentioned on the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The Secretary General strongly condemns today's attack against a joint field mission of the World Food Program in Kimbumba near Goma. The attack was perpetrated by unidentified armed combatants. The attack resulted in the killing of 3 people, including the Italian ambassador to the DRC, his bodyguard, and a WFP national staff member. The Secretary General expresses his deep condolences to the families of the deceased, as well as the government of Italy and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. He further expresses his solidarity with the World Food Program colleagues and the entire United Nations team in the country. The Secretary General calls on the government of the Democratic Republic of the Congo to investigate swiftly this heinous targeting of a UN joint field mission and to bring the perpetrators to justice. He reaffirms that the United Nations will continue to support the Congolese government and the people in their efforts to bring about peace and stability, especially in the east of the country. The Security Council held a open video conference on Somalia and heard from the Secretary General Special Representative James Swan. He told council members that the growing political tensions threaten Somalia's state-building progress and even security unless they're resolved through dialogue and compromise in the interests of the country. Unfortunately, Mr. Swan said, instead we are seeing increased brinkmanship, pressure tactics, and the tests of strength that can only heighten risks. He noted that this is a tense moment in Somalia as both rhetoric and actions are escalating. Mr. Swan said the Somali people have waited long enough to see progress and it remains fragile. He urged all of Somalia's political leaders to pull back from confrontation and to avoid risky winner-take-all tactics. Instead, he said this is a time to pursue dialogue and compromise to reach an inclusive and credible political agreement to hold elections as soon as possible based on the 17th September model. This afternoon,
okay, that's
the
enough.
council members, and you will hear from the head.
That's enough. So, if you are interested to follow the United Nations briefing, it covers all over the globe, Africa, Asia, Middle East, all. So it's really interesting to see what's going on, update ourselves, because we are globally interconnected. Nobody's living in a separate country or separate area. We are interconnected. That's why sometimes I bring United Nations briefing. It's gonna help, to know what's happening in the global stage. So the European Council, European Union, really they put almost 90% of their attention in the Tigray war in Mekele, but there is a war going on in Oromo for almost more than 2 years. It didn't get that much attention, but it's under the command post. People are dying. Thousands and thousands of people are in jail. Atrocities are very, very common, and also the Benishangul area is under the command post. Killing is common. Arrest is common. People are fleeing, almost like reported. It was reported like 7,000 people from that region ran away to Sudan to save their lives. So the attention should also focus on the other areas, Benishangul, Oromia, especially Oromia and the Benishangul at this time. Other areas might be fine, except arrests, as other intimidation and even assassination in other towns like Mekele, as you heard, university graduates, students coming back from celebration were assassinated while they are returning to Addis Ababa. So really, Ethiopia is a mess. Ethiopia is a mess. Ethiopia is a threat, a very serious threat for its own citizens, plus for the global community. That for that sense. So Ethiopia needs a saver. Ethiopia needs a saver. Intervention. And the ones in power now, they are not protecting Ethiopia. They are subjecting their own citizens to misery. Life is expensive. Fuel shortage is reported these days. It's very tough, really, very tough. Even sometimes when you send money from here to family, there is also a delay in receiving that money, and the government is telling these people internet is down, electric is down, come back tomorrow, come back after tomorrow. So this I never heard under Wayane, under TPLF for the last 27 years. You send, you call them, they will take the money. But these days, sometimes it takes more than a week. So there's very bad, very bad, very bad. So the country is going down. The country is going down into the toilet. And it needs a saver, not election, not fake election. Election will not savor. Dialogue, coming together, reconciliation can't savor. People hate each other. Ethnic cleansing, ethnic violence everywhere, killing everywhere, assassination everywhere, and unemployment high. So instead of running for fake election to claim victory through fake election, this country needs a different road, a different discussion, a different dialogue, reconciliation, if we want to keep Ethiopia as Ethiopians. So the situation is very tough. The military is not solving the problem. The military is aggravating the situation. Unaccountability is high. You could be killed, and the government, after investigating, could say it's a personal issue. It's nothing political. So it is a very tough situation. We need a global intervention. We need global attention, not only to the Tigray region, but the whole country. The whole country need a saver. I know they cannot stop this election. It's going to happen, but it will not be the saver. And the silence of other ethnicities also is alarming. The Amaras are silent because they got some benefit under Abiy Ahmed. I don't know. They think that. They don't care about the suffering of other Ethiopians. They are silent. The other regions, the Gambelas, the Walaitas, the Kambatas, and others are really silent. So all Ethiopians, they have to pay attention and wake up and save this country from collapsing. The country is collapsing, really. The country is in danger. So we need to wake up and come together and challenge the Prosperity Party and the Abiy Ahmed leadership. They are not leading the country in the right way. The country is broken. The country is not safe for its own citizens. Plus, external enemies like Sudan are coming and pushing deep into the country. So this is a failure of leadership, and the Ethiopians must make these people accountable. And Abiy Ahmed and his Prosperity Party, they have to make them accountable. They have to come out and protest. The border is broken. What they are doing, what they are, quiet. They are quiet, really, but the country is collapsing under them. So my message is, we have to come together if we think to save that country. Instead of thinking about one region, Walqait or Tigray or Amara region, just one target, and while the country is at war with its own citizens, and when the foreign country is coming to take your land, you will not have Walqait if the Sudanese are coming, okay, or the Egyptians are coming. You will not have Walqait. So you need to come together, save that country, then you will have your Walqait and whatever other areas you are claiming. So the country is in crisis. Don't think you are happy under Abiy Ahmed. Don't be silent. Get up. Join other forces, like we did in our opposition to TPLF, like Zelma, Fano, Kero, and others. Come together with one voice. That kind of unity can save the country if we want to keep Ethiopia. And Ethiopia doesn't mean only Amara. You don't have to shout and cry when the Amara is touched or affected. You have to also do the same thing when the Oromos are suffering in jail, when the Oromos are arrested in thousands and thousands, when the Oromos are killed and their body is thrown in forest. If you are thinking about Ethiopia, if you are talking about Ethiopia, you have to stand to fight it, oppose it, when the others are bleeding. That is Ethiopianism. That is the meaning of Ethiopianism. It's not only when your tribe is touched, you shout and cry. No. So the country is in crisis. The country is in turmoil. The safety of the people is in danger. No place is safe. Everywhere is command post. War is still going on in Mekele, in Oromo, in Benishangul. Other areas you could be assassinated by cadres, undercover operatives, and nobody is accountable. The country is very bad. It needs a saver. The savers are Ethiopians, Amaras, Gurages, Oromos, Walatas, Tigrayans, Gambela, Somalians. They have to, Afars and others, come together and speak one voice. Don't just look for your own benefit. Thank you again. I will be back with other videos. Keep the resistance movement going on. And don't forget the upcoming Oromo protests in DC on February 25. Be there, be the voice for the voiceless, and let's pray for the safety or for those Oromo political prisoners who are on a hunger strike for the 26th day. Thank you again. So long, everyone, and like, share, and subscribe to Concerned Citizens Media so we can grow it, we can make it the voice for democracy, freedom, justice, and equality for all. Thank you.